Hey, good morning, everybody. Daniel Cook here with Cook DFW Roofing, and we are going to talk about a hot topic lately, and that is sudden water loss that may occur inside your home. And we have seen a lot of this lately, either due to bad plumbing or weather events outside of your control. And there's a lot of material here that a lot of homeowners do not understand and don't know the avenue of what to do when this happens. And it's a very scary event. If you have not been through one of these yet, and I hope you never do, but if it does ever happen to you, it's a very traumatizing event, looking at all this water spilling out onto your floors and going through your home, and you not knowing what to do or how to get something done. So we're going to give you some helpful hints and hopefully get you prepared if this does happen in your home, so it does not enlarge as big as it can. So that's going to be today's subject, and we got Lyndon with us. Lyndon?
What's up, Daniel?
Hey, Lyndon, good morning.
Good morning.
So you're sitting in your house, you are watching TV, your wife is there with you. All of a sudden you hear this trickling water, inside your home. You're like, I didn't know it was raining outside. And you keep hearing this trickling water, and you're like, man, that sounds like it's really close. It doesn't sound like it's outside.
It's raining inside the house.
And you look on the floor, and you can see this puddle of water, and you see it advancing towards you. And then you look up the staircase, and you see the water is running down the staircase. And now you're like, what the heck is happening? So, you get up, you're rushing around, you're trying to figure out where this water coming from, and you find out that possibly one of your valves inside your bathroom upstairs has gone bad. And now it's allowing water to bypass that pipe and just spray out to that bathroom cabinet, and then down the floor, and then all the way through, and then down the stairs, because water finds its least of resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is actually a true story. So this guy was sitting there in his living room with his wife. He had been upstairs recently to shut those valves off to change a faucet on that bathroom sink. Changes the faucet, no big deal. About a week later, that leak develops. And it's because those valves are not, let's just face it, they're not the best material.
All right.
And those mechanisms on those handles and everything will get old, especially with hard water and some of the water that we have around these cities.
Right.
It just kills those valves and those O-rings and everything. And so it becomes where they become brittle. So in this situation, this was a plumbing failure that led to a water loss. And
Okay.
why I highlight that is how you deal with that if you have to turn it into insurance. There are sudden water losses that deal with plumbing, and there's sudden water losses that deal with weather. And the two of those do have different criteria as far as how they're covered.
Okay.
So, but in this case, unfortunately, this gentleman's home had an upstairs water leak that obviously probably was happening for a while before it got downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And all in that cabinets, all through he had a game room attached to that bathroom.
Oh.
Then all through that staircase, and then it got all the way down the staircase to the entryway, and then going into the living room before they actually heard it. And what they were hearing, the water was water running down the stairs, and then
So they had a waterfall in their house.
They had a waterfall feature.
That's a custom house right there.
Well, hey,
that sucks.
I don't know what that would cost. I think they figured it out though. So
yeah.
But anyway, in this situation, now the guy is obviously the valve doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? Where are you going to turn your water off at?
Well, that's something that most homeowners don't know.
Whoa!
But every homeowner should know.
Guess what? Guess where his water valve was?
I don't know.
It took him about 3 hours to find it too.
Oh my God!
And then on top of that, he had a bush that was planted on top of it.
Mm.
So then, now you're out here trying to hack this bush off, trying to get to your water cut off, and then you figure out that the water cut off had fire ants all inside of it. This is a true. I can't make this stuff
No,
up.
I believe you. I do. I saw this happen back in Snowmageddon when everything started to melt. right? When it started to thaw, and you got 3, 4 inches of snow on the ground outside. I lived in a condo in Rockwall, and people were in a panic, and the actual fire department came out to help people find the cutoff valves because I mean, it's a condo. They don't know where they are, right? They've never gone outside. Fortunately, I knew exactly where mine was,
Hmm.
and cut it off and started helping other people. But um, no, I've seen that. I've seen my God rest his soul. My dad busted a pipe in our house one time, and that's my first lesson of learning where the water valve was, the
Yeah.
shutoff valve outside. And I don't know that there's a lot of people know that that even exists, Daniel. They wouldn't even know. You know, it's not like
I
a
see
push
that.
button something. You just go and flip a switch and it's off. You've got to
Yeah.
go. But
It's a bad deal, man. So yeah. So unfortunately, this gentleman's water was spraying outside his pipe and all through his house for almost probably who knows 4 or 5 hours.
yeah,
Who knows how many gallons of water that was. Those have a pretty good amount of pressure. So in this case, we walk his house um, after they come out and you got a plumber come out and fix that valve and then go over with him the plumbing side of everything. And he calls us up and he's like, "Hey, I got referred to y'all. I hear y'all do water loss." I said, "Yes, sir. What's wrong?" He goes, "Well, we had some water. We tried to soak it up with some towels and mop it up." And he goes, "But it looks like it's got into the baseboards and I don't know what else." I'm like, "Okay." So we come out there and we walk through the house and everybody else makes it sound like it's not that big of a deal. Got a little bit of water in the baseboards, blah, blah, blah. So I get out there and this was like 2 days. The baseboards have already swollen up. Like
hmm
they've already ballooned out. You could already see, and I'm walking. He goes, "Yeah, I think it mostly was in this area." I'm walking around with my flashlight because most people's homes are dark. They may be lit up, but they're still dark in general.
right,
So I take my big old flashlight and I'm walking around the house. It's not just in those areas. That water had traveled underneath those baseboards, over through the other walls, through the other rooms, and I start showing this. He's like, "Oh crap! Oh, I didn't know it got that far." Because he's more focused on what he could see visibly.
yeah,
We see this all the time, so we know if it got to that baseboard and it got into that wall, it probably got to that next wall, or probably got to that closet too.
right.
So sure enough, there's a little coat closet connected to there. He's got carpet in there. I put my hand on the coat on the carpet, and so you can still see the water coming out the carpet.
Mm,
He's like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Man," I go, "We gotta get all this carpet out of here, man." I go, "This carpet is just gonna start having a mold festival. You
yep.
get all this humidity in this house that you have, and now you got all this wetness." I go, "We're fixing to be in trouble." So we walking through all that, and we make a plan to get all the carpet out, the padding, try to, and we have some fans that we can set up for homeowners, to
hmm
try to create that air movement on that so it doesn't stay stagnant. And we try to dry that out as fast as we can. Even though the baseboards are damaged and sheetrock is damaged to a point, you don't want to let that moisture just continue to grow either.
Right.
Because if it does, it's just gonna start growing so fast. They say that mold can't grow that fast, but that's incorrect. I've seen mold grow overnight in a
Mm,
house,
yeah.
and there's different types of mold too. Everybody always has the only thing they think of as mold, and that's not the way that it is. I mean, there's probably 6 or 7 different versions of mold, and when you have mold remediation done, they do mold testing beforehand. And so there's the scary one. It's black mold, right? That's the one that causes respiratory problems and sickness and all kinds of issues.
Yep.
But there are types of mold that are just like an algae type of mold that can maybe eventually turn into a black mold. But when it first starts, it's more of just a green moldish color.
Right.
Sometimes it may be grayish, but that's not as harmful. But it's still bad. Who wants to live with mold?
No, nobody. That's
So
nasty.
no. And so that's what we're trying to avoid is having that mold develop in your home. Because then when that happens, it becomes a whole different procedure on what the final cleaning is going to occur and
hmm
how your home is going to be recertified as safe. So, first thing is figure out where your water shutoff is. Make sure you have a key if you need one, because some of them require a special key.
I was going to say that as well because I'm trying to pull one up here now. Um, there's a lot of people that go out there and then they don't have that key. Now I have been able to use a crescent wrench and a
That can
screwdriver.
happen in some. A
Yep.
crescent wrench or a pair of uh, you know um, pipe wrench,
Yep.
crescent wrench, maybe sometimes a strong enough pair of pliers, something in that magnitude, a vice grip. But it's 10 times easier with this key. And these keys are available at Home Depot, Lowe's, True Hardware. They're just a standard water key that fits around the end of that little device in the water meter. Yep, that's a picture of a water meter. And if you notice right there on the very end of that, the left side, there's a little line on that device. And that's where that key goes on top of. And it turns it just like counterclockwise is off and clockwise is on, basically. And that bar also issues basically the water flow. So when that water is going into the pipe, you see how it's perpendicular to the pipe. When you turn it counterclockwise, it will turn that water line up and down, showing that no water can go in that pipe. So that's what you need to have. And a lot of them look like this, but they do look different sometimes. So I probably would definitely educate yourself on yours, because some of them come in a large circle like this, but a lot of them are coming in plastic rectangular boxes.
Yep.
A lot of them are coming in smaller circle boxes like this. And then when you first look in there, you don't necessarily see this turnoff because you're panicking, right? So some of them are deceived. Some of them may not be as defined as this. Some of them they may blend in with the pipe almost. Like they may be black or green or something like that. So make sure you evaluate your water meter at your home, how to turn it off, and what device you may need in order to turn it off effectively. So this is a critical thing. Number two, though, so if you got that down, if something still happens outside of your control, a water pipe bust because of extreme cold temperatures in your home, obviously you don't know that what's going to happen right away. That may take a while to manifest, get that water outside your walls, and then run out to wherever it's going to run to. That again, hopefully you're home when this happens. If you're not home, that's going to be a bigger problem. Because now you're going to walk in and you may have furniture floating in your house.
See, that's kind of what happened with the Snowmageddon. I stayed because I didn't know when it was going to thaw out, and at that point, I couldn't get to the water meter. There was actually a car parked over it, which I don't know why they would put it where they put it, but there was a car over it. I couldn't get to it, and so I stayed. But there were, I can't remember how many condos were in that thing, but over half of them had to be almost completely remodeled because everybody left. And when the water came back on, that's why the fire department came out, because they kind of, I guess, anticipated that there's going to be people not home. And of course, I'm on the first floor. So the second floor guy, he happened to be home, but he didn't know where the water meter was. So we were able to get out and turn that off before there was a lot of damage to mine, because his was already starting to trickle into mine.
Well,
I'm like you. I was sitting there, and of course, I was expecting it. Right, that's why I stayed, and I was ready. And we had where over one of my bathrooms, his bathroom was over that, I guess, and it started coming down from there. But as I walked into my bedroom, close to my bathroom there, I heard this god awful noise in the wall, and of course, I knew what it was. But if you didn't know, I don't know what you would have thought that it could have been, but it didn't sound like water because it had so much pressure behind it, and it was spraying and hitting the sheetrock. Well, because of me being so quick and reacting, they were able to cut probably maybe 18 by 18 piece of sheetrock out, go in, fix the pipe. That was the only damage done because I was that quick to get it.
Yeah.
And
well, and that brings up another topic is, you got to think a lot of folks haven't heard water hissing out of a pressurized pipe before.
No, it's got a roaring sound to it.
Right.
Yeah.
You got, if you think about it, some of these pipes probably have, 55, 70 pounds of pressure. And when you have a small pinhole or a crack, because that's what happens. The pipes will expand, and then
Hmm.
that copper will get weak and it'll just crack. And it'll crack, but then the pressure will widen it out.
Hmm.
And so you're forcing a ton of pressure out that hole. And wherever that hole's facing, if it's in a wall or it's along a ceiling or along your slab, wherever it's at, I mean, that's where it's going to be pouring out at a large amount. But so weather loss water is a little bit more traumatizing because usually it's going to be under extreme cold conditions, right?
Hmm.
So your homes are already under severe stress. You've already gone out. You try to protect your outside pipes. You got your water dripping. If you should have your water dripping, you should have your cabinet doors open. You should try to prevent all this stuff from happening. But sometimes extreme cold and the house setups still fail. And and as long as you did your job to probably prevent it, then you at least did what you should do.
Right.
There are cases though I still see every day. People had all the pipes covered, they had the cabinets open, they had the water dripping, and still pipes on outside walls, especially north-facing walls, or maybe older homes that weren't insulated as well. Those are going to have problems still. And so that's
Mhm.
what we're finding out a lot of times. We still have several clients that we're working with right now on those claims. And it's scary. We just went this week, actually. This one home is only about 10 years old, and they had an outside north-facing wall for a bar setup, and the wall did not have that much insulation. It had just a mere amount of insulation on the interior wall, but the external wall coincided with the fireplace flue that went up from the bottom up through the second story. And so that cavity on the outside of that was wide open
Mm.
because it's not really thought of for protection, right?
Right. Right.
But they had run plumbing, the builder or the engineer or architect, whatever, when they developed this house, thought it was going to be smart to run that water piping for that upstairs bar along that interior wall because they thought that much insulation was protected enough, even though they had, I would say about 4 feet of exterior wall in a cavity that was wide open.
Mm.
So in this case, this brand new home got water damage because that pipe swelled and broke because it wasn't enough insulation. And so, now these people are traumatized by this humongous water loss. And, they try to do everything they could. So now
Right.
we went over there, we took that cavity, and we took a large kit of spray and insulation. And it's very similar with those cans. You see those little 12-ounce cans that you buy and shake up
Yep.
and spray along. Well, this is an industrial kit. It's got two used containers that look like Freon, that look like propane bottles,
Hmm.
and it has a two-part mix. It mixes together and creates that spray foam. And you have a spray nozzle and everything. So we went over there and opened up this cavity of this wall and got the entire cavity on the back and the sides and everything fully insulated now. So that way that north wind will not affect this area anymore. And
Okay.
hopefully will protect that pipe. So, but these are things that you don't know until unfortunately they happen. You don't know why it caused that, you know? But yeah, so sudden water loss by far is scary. Um, and hopefully you're prepared. So number one, like we talked about, know where your water meter is. Number two, know what to use in order to shut your water off. Number three is something we haven't discussed yet. You might want to do a preliminary, search on all the valves around your home. If your home, I would say this, if your home's probably greater than 7 years old, I think you probably need to look at all your valves and see if they work and if they feel tight. That's a side effect of a bad valve is it starts getting tight because it doesn't have that fluid motion when
Hmm.
you're turning it. So you need to go to each one of your faucets. They should have a valve on the hot side and a valve on the cold side. And you need to turn them and say, does that feel all right? Does that feel a little clunky? I mean, I don't know. And if it feels kind of rough or hard to turn, that valve's probably going bad. Um, each one of your toilets, commodes in your house has a valve on the end of it. You probably need to turn it also and see. See if it has a good flow on the turn. Make sure it doesn't feel tight like we talked about. Those valves will go bad. And when they go bad, there ain't nothing you're going to be able to do about it. And hopefully you'll shut your water off and have it replaced. That's the only thing
Hmm.
you can do. There's no repair to that valve. That valve is a one-time use thing.
Well, I
So,
think some people can think, and some people have had this happen to them, but your on and off what I'm trying to say handle, but on your bathtub or sink or something
Uh-huh.
like that, when it strips out
Mm-hmm.
and you got the water running, you can
Right.
turn it all day long. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the same thing with that valve, and that does happen. And I was changing out, or I was going to turn it off because it's when you shared the story about the changing the water faucet out. I was going to change ours out for my wife, and I got under there and I twisted one, man, and it was like it just crumbled.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
handle just crumbled. Now,
Yeah.
fortunately, I hadn't turned it off or on. There was no water leak, so I was able to go get a pair of pliers and get it turned off. But then you know, I had to go outside, turn the water or cut the water meter off, and then replace that valve because, um, it was just a mess at that time, and
Yeah.
I didn't go change the rest of them. I probably need to do that too, but that should have been the first warning.
Well, I mean, it's like the old saying: when one headlight goes out,
Yep,
replace both,
that's right.
and they're both made the same time, right?
Yep, that's
Tail
true.
lights, brake lights. We used to tell people that all the time. But I mean, home maintenance, and it'd be one thing if you don't feel secure about doing that yourself, because it's scary. But if you've done it once or twice, it's a pretty simple process. But if you need to call somebody out, I would say, hey, why are you going to replace one valve? They're going to do you a service call anyway. You're going to pay somebody $125 to appear at your home if they're there for 5 minutes or if they're there for an hour and a half. So if you don't know about all your valves, I'd have them all checked out,
Hmm.
and make sure they're good quality and they're in the good shape. The washer and dryer has one as well.
Uh-huh.
That may be a different type. It may be one of those that have on the top of the valves. They have like these little pit of ball valves.
Yep.
So those might be different. Some of them have the old timey, standard valves. Um, so all these behind your refrigerator. That's
Hmm.
another one.
And
Your
your
ice
water,
water maker.
ice and water. Yep.
So that one also is another. So all these, I mean, you take all this stuff for granted as you live in your home, and you're like, oh, we never see those things. We don't think about them. But these are things that unfortunately will cause you issues if
Hmm.
unfortunate. So,
Yep.
but so water loss is scary. Just make sure you're prepared. I highlighted on this at the beginning of the show. What is the difference in water loss when it's plumbing related or weather related? And this is the biggest difference. And please, I'm not an insurance expert, but please check with your insurance and see how your policy is written. But this is what I've been told majority of the time. If you have a plumbing related water loss, that's going to be considered a maintenance issue. Maintenance issues are excluded from most coverages on most policies. So let's say you have a huge plumbing bill after your water loss. More than likely, that will not be covered by your insurance. I'm not saying always. I'm just saying majority of the time I've seen that. If it's a plumbing related issue, the plumbers, you're going to have to pay them to get out there as fast as you can to get that water problem solved, right? That more than likely will not be covered by insurance. If you have a weather-related plumbing fault, a pipe busting due to extreme cold temperatures or blah, 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 that generally is included in the repair to the home with everything else. So that's a big difference as far as the water leak and the cause.
Hmm.
So a lot of people don't understand that. Also, if you have a water leak in your slab, that is a special provision that you need to be aware of. Do you have coverage for those type of water leaks? Because a lot of home policies do not have that automatically. That's something that you have to ask for. So, and you'd be surprised how often this happens. Our foundations shift around here, and when that occurs, sometimes that causes a pipe to get creaked, and it shifts the pipe, and then that will cause a water slab leak that eventually may cause substantial issues because that's going to cause your soil to have huge amounts of water into it, which causes foundation problems to even get larger. But then on top of that, if you don't have slab protection or slab leak, that's a super costly expense. I'm
Yeah, it
talking
is.
I'm talking in the thousands of dollars
Hmm.
because they either have to tunnel in from outside or they have to jackhammer through the slab inside in order to get to all those areas that slab leak may be occurring. So it's a very time consuming. And you think about this, if they can't tunnel from outside for one reason or another.
They got to tear up the whole house to get to that spot.
Woo! I mean, I want you try to paint a mental picture here. You've got this nice hand scraped wood floors that are all in your living room connected to your kitchen. Then you got to apply up all of that hardwood. Then you got to, actually, this pipe goes underneath your cabinets. Oh,
Hmm.
and your countertops. So all you got to take out your quartz countertops and all your cabinets in order to access this pipe. And then I'm going to jackhammer inside your house. You're going to have all this fun cement dust everywhere,
For
all over.
years.
I mean, I can't. I don't know until you've seen it once. You can't really fathom it.
No.
So if anybody wants to go out to a site that we're working on for water mediation to see how much it traumatizes the home, I'd be more than welcome to let you come on out. So
Yeah.
let me know. You can see how much damage this causes when these things occur.
You know,
So
it's I wish people did understand because I think we roll the dice so much and we don't pay attention and we just assume that everything's going to be great. Um, but it's just devastating. And in a lot of those cases, like you're talking about, you're not probably going to be living in your home while they're doing that.
oh, no, no. Majority of the time, I would say probably at least 75% of the time, people have to then, pack up everything they want. We have to get all the personal belongings out of the way. We got to make sure everything's off the walls. I mean, so you're basically moving. You
Hmm.
are moving.
Yep.
You are. Then we have to rent a pod sometimes. Sometimes people put everything in the garage. It just depends. It depends on what their insurance. Sometimes the insurance are all over these things, man. I tell you, there's some insurance out there that are like, hey, we got a pod coming. The pod will be here this time. We've got your hotel stay already reserved. Blah blah blah. I mean, they know that these things are gonna have to be done,
Hmm.
so they're on top of it. And some insurance is like, yeah, well, if you want to go ahead and pay for the hotel, send us the
We'll
bill.
reimburse you.
We'll reimburse you.
Right.
So, I mean, you get what you pay for and everything in life. So, I don't endorse one insurance or the other. There is a lot of quality insurance companies out there. There are a lot of bad insurance companies out there. And when I say companies, I mean policies written. Maybe the company is fantastic, but who wrote the policy and why did they write it? Was it because they needed a certain price to get you qualified for the house? Or was it because they wanted a certain protection to make sure you and your family were going to be protected in an event that would occur sometime? So make sure you're knowledgeable. It goes back to everything we talked about. Knowledge
Yep.
is power. Make sure you're prepared and make sure that you have a good game plan for everything that happens. And there's a lot of things that people underestimate when owning a house. And that's what this program was designed for, is think
Exactly.
about these things. Think about these things before they happen. So,
And just knowing where the water valve is can save you thousands of dollars. And that costs you nothing to figure that out or get somebody to help you figure it out.
yeah. I mean, we would do that for you as a courtesy. I mean, honestly, all our guys are out here in the field every day. If you don't know where your water valve is, you don't know what a tool looks like, heck, let us know. We'd love to come out, just show you what you do. We just want to help people.
Yep.
It's a lot better to help people on this side of it before something happens and walk in and see their faces, traumatized by what's fixing to happen to their lives for the next month or two.
Yep.
And knowing that now they're going to have to figure out where they're going to go live and where their pets are going to go live, because most hotels or everything don't want pets, And how am I going to get my kids to school because the nearest hotel is 3.5 miles over here, and now I'm used to having my kid just dropped off right behind the elementary school. There's so many things life is going to get hectic,
Yep.
big time. So we try to prevent it, and I know nobody wants to deal with it, but if it happens, we got to be prepared for it, and make sure we try to mediate it as much as possible. So
Well, that's why you call the show "Home Ownership Made Easy." We're
that's
trying to
design.
help them out.
That's it. It's not easy, but we want to make it that way. So, but we're fixing to sign off. We're running out of time, but just one other thing: make sure we are going to be talking in the future. Though springtime is right around the corner. There's a lot of stuff that we need to start doing for springtime ownership of our homes. We got a lot of, we got, today's weather is a side effect of, just wintertime. We got a low pressure system that's starting to spin up and create a lot of rain. And thankfully, we haven't had rain in 5 weeks. But, this is just a side effect. And I'm not a meteorologist, but I can tell you what I've been reading is we're going to have a pretty decent springtime storm season. So we're going to have a pretty fair amount of rain and thunderstorms, and that means a whole bunch of scary nights and scary days sometimes. So we're going to start talking about that, make sure everybody's prepared for those.
All right. Well, Daniel, I'll let you close this out. Let everybody know it's scrolling at the bottom, obviously, but let everybody know how to get in touch with you and Cook DFW, and get somebody on their side out there to help them understand how to save money and prevent those catastrophic losses.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lyndon. Yeah, if you'd like any more information or help for items around your home, feel free to give us a call. It's 1-833-COOK-DFW. Also, website is cookdfw.com, and you can always email me directly at daniel@cookdfw.com. We'd love to help you if you need just basic questions, if you need somebody to stop by your house, like we talked about today's show. Where is my water shut off, and what do I do if something happens? We'd love to show you, to make you prepared, and to make home ownership made easy. I'll have a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye.